The humble beach esky. To Kiwis, it's the chili bin. To the Americans, it's the cooler. And to the British, it's the cool box. These are all slang for a beach must-have in summer to keep everything cool on a hot summer's day. Well, this same construction principle will be the same one we use for our home because it will be built from Thermacell, an insulated polystyrene formwork system. So just like this esky with its panels that cover a polystyrene core, our home will be built from polystyrene too and will virtually be one great big esky in summer. And of course, a beautiful warm thermos in winter, ideal for the harsh Australian climate.
And then on 180, on 190, sorry. Happy there? Yep. Alright.
After a well-earned 2 weeks off for the Christmas and New Year break, and with the slab cured and ready to be built on, it was time to start the walls.
If you came back off that line, it gives you a clear opening of 900.
And the process to marking out these walls begins as it has done for thousands of years, with the very simplest technology of a snapping chalk line. This age-old technique dates back to ancient Egypt, nearly 5,000 years ago, when the system of pulling a taut, chalk-covered cord snapped onto a surface was used to form building lines. These snapping lines have been used ever since throughout the world to today, where this black chalk powder will be transferred onto the surface of this concrete and will guide where our blocks will be laid. Although the technology we're using to construct our home isn't quite so old, to the contrary, it's at the cutting edge of innovative construction techniques. Polystyrene as a man-made material of 98% trapped air is highly thermally efficient. And with a concrete core making it sound resistant also, this Thermacell product is the perfect technology to build a modern, energy efficient home. And it's these impressive attributes, combined with an interlocking design reminiscent of giant Lego blocks, that will mean Dad and I can together build our own walls. And by doing it ourselves, this will help to save nearly 50% of the costs of a traditional brick veneer wall construction.
It's amazing how owner-builders adapt to it. See, they don't have to de-learn how to build a brick veneer. See, most builders here, they're all conditioned to build brick veneer. They have to be deprogrammed to build a Thermacell. And bring your concrete up to about here.
Yep.
And then you can string line it and you can look along it.
And with an industry so set in its ways and mostly resistant to change, a quick tutorial for the carpenters is usually all that is required to teach them how to build in Thermacell.
So basically it looks like my son could do this.
Yeah.
He's 4.
Well look, I've got 2 ladies built there at home. So if you blokes are having trouble, I'll send these ladies along to help you.
All right, Jeff. No,
it's
that's
not that
fine.
Beautiful. With the blueprints in hand and the added help of our carpenters on site to do the initial set out of the home, we get started. And the first specification outlined by our engineer is to cut, drill and hammer the Y12 steel reinforcement into the slab.
What am I doing here? I'm cutting the steel reinforcement for the Thermacell wall.
This steel reinforcement, like any steel reinforcement where concrete is used, is required to give strength to the concrete core, soon to be poured in these walls. Feeling refreshed after our break, it was an exciting time for the project ahead.
Good to be back, yeah. Had 2 weeks off, itching to get back into it, and it's good to get a start on. So hopefully now it looks like it's going to be full steam ahead.
And full steam ahead it was. With the first pack carried into position and ripped open, it was time to lay the very first blocks of our new home. And brick by brick, the home starts to take shape. While the block work is being laid, the demolition saw is brought out to precision cut the slab to the marked chalk line, which is necessary to create a perfectly flush finish for the render in a few months to come.
The trick is for your render, to have a straight finished edge so that the finish comes up tidy and your waterproofing's not damaged at all.
With Ken Weir back on site for yet another inspection, this time he was keeping the carpenters on their toes as he double-checked every engineering detail.
Yeah, just having a look at the starting for the block work, mainly the starter bars from the slab, so I've got them keyed into the wall, and the positioning of the rods for the reinforcement. It's basically just a prelim to check that we're on the right footing to get us going.
With everything going to plan, it was time for a quick lunch break.
I'm gonna have lunch.
Yeah, it's 1 o'clock.
It's 1 o'clock, tools down.
As the day was heating up past 40 degrees, the baking hot sun was quickly draining our energy.
Yeah, I'm hiding in the shade, yes. I'm a little bit hot. I'm trying to protect my my noggin, my bald noggin. My solar panel, yes, I'm trying to protect it. There's so much solar around it, I think I'd burn my cells out. Anyway, yeah, it's hot.
It was getting so hot, in fact, our cameras began overheating and stopped recording sound at around this point. With sombreros, sunglasses and sunscreen on, we were back into it. And in order to tack this polystyrene structure to the ground before the concrete pour next week, we hand-mixed wheelbarrow loads of it first. Muscle power and the age-old recipe of 3 parts stone, 2 parts sand and 1 part cement, all combined with a splash of water, was all that was needed to steady the structure. As the day wore on, the heat finally beat us into submission.
All right, let's pull the pin and pull dough.
Okay, Cisco.
It's an interesting concept using polystyrene to build a home, and in fact, it was the Bavarian Alps of all places where this construction technique was first pioneered.
The first one was built in the Bavarian Alps in 1932. So it's not a new product as far as the world's concerned. Perhaps it is in Australia, but then again, it's been around here for decades as well.
This EPS, or expanded polystyrene, isn't like any ordinary polystyrene box though, because these precision-made and engineered construction blocks are made to very high standards and within exceptionally low tolerances.
They're made within a very, very small tolerance. They're originally a German idea that was engineered in Germany in the 1930s. But in the last 30 years, we've brought it here and we've brought it and made it for Australian standards, Australian conditions.
It's with good sense these blocks are so highly engineered, because with so many tonnes of wet concrete being poured into them so quickly, containing this weight long enough until the concrete cures is essential.
So essentially we are building a concrete home, but with the benefits of having polystyrene like an Esky
Either side to protect us from heat and sound.
Essentially, yes, it's permanent formwork, but it's an insulated permanent formwork. At the end of the day, it's only formwork for a steel reinforced cast concrete wall of 32 MPa. It is extremely strong, and it's all about compressive strength. And as long as the block, which it is, strong enough to hold the concrete until it cures, that's where your structural integrity lies.
This permanent formwork also has the major advantage of all of that trapped air. And with polystyrene being 98% trapped air, it makes for an exceptionally good insulator. The process to making this polystyrene product though, in relative terms, is remarkably simple. With sand-like plastic granules being machine blasted into fluffed up foam beads, these foam beads are next injected into aluminium moulds.
They're not much different to beanbag material, basically fluffed up polystyrene foam beads, forced into an aluminium mould, and then we push steam into that mould under great pressure. The steam melts the plastic and forces the beads together. So there's no other chemical added, it's just hot steam and plastic foam.
With polystyrene being the permanent insulated formwork for our concrete structure, I travel along to meet with architect Rob Mills, who not only utilises the strength of concrete structures, but also the versatility and beauty concrete provides.
Hi Chris, welcome. Come in. Come upstairs.
It's a beautiful home, Rob.
Thanks, Chris.
And it's obviously your personal beach house as well.
It is, it is. We feel incredibly fortunate to have it. But you know what? We've really worked for it. We had three main criteria. We wanted to hear the waves crashing, we wanted to see the ocean, and we wanted a degree of privacy. So once you were within Ocean House, or the beach house that we had in our mind, you felt like you were in an oasis.
With the palette of raw materials and colours chosen for the home, the central idea for this design was to be at one with the natural environment.
You can see the greys in the clouds, which are found within Ocean House. And then the timber, we rubbed this whitewash into the timber to tone it down because, of course, raw, it was the colour of sawn timber. Whereas you don't find sawn timber in a forest, you find the bark and the shell, the shell of the timber, which has been weathered. And so by rubbing the whitewash into the timber, you become one with the colours you find, or the timber becomes one with the colours you find in the forest.
Being made from concrete, this home not only embraces the beauty of this material, but also the flexibility concrete provides in the structural design.
Concrete allows you to do different things than timber. Greater spans, curves, and things like that.
The other underlying theme in this home is the design attention paid to creating purposefully different experiences within each room.
And so within our houses, room to room, we offer you a different experience. So we'll have a cosy room, which we call a winter room, and then we'll have a really large family living area with kitchen. And there's a real contrast between living in those spaces. When you move from one to the other, you feel the difference. And so that's what you experience here.
And the great counterbalance to help soften this palette of raw and natural materials is created through the careful placement of furniture, textiles and decoration.
I'm a specialist in residential property. I design homes, people's homes, and so I'm setting out to create a space that you live in. And it's the furniture that you live with that gives you that most sort of personal comfort that we're seeking.
As the walls to our new home start to come to life, so too does our commissioned artwork. which is being created by popular local artist Michael Leeworthy.
That coastal side, the rough Bass Strait, Western Port side, that to me is the most beautiful. It's just very, very different to Port Phillip, and that's where I like to paint. For an artist, everything's there. The colours change from indigo blue to aqua to turquoise. It's gorgeous. Painting is like creating music. Yeah, you just become one with the scene in front of you and the music, and just become part of it and let it flow. It's sort of almost like going into a trance. You're at one with the environment and the music, and it switches off from the outside distractions. I might just sketch as I go, then go and sit down on a rock or whatever and just put a bit of colour in it. It's got nothing to do with business, nothing to do with business. It's just what I like doing. It's a type of meditation, and probably why I'm single. I think painting is my wife. I was a bit of a weird kid. I actually bought books home from the Bentley Library from the age of 10, and I'm sure my mother had to sign for a lot of them. She was convinced that I was there to look at the nude statues. Well, maybe just a little bit, but you know, like, hello, couldn't they actually sort of sense something? This little kid wanted to be an artist. I didn't know if it was just like any kid, he just wants to draw and paint, but it's what I felt. I felt the happiest when I was doing that. So sometimes I think it was the only thing I've ever really been good at. At the moment I'm working with Work for the Doll people, trying to get their skills up to do a mural. That's so rewarding. So look, I'm confident enough to feel like I have got some skills to pass on to other people, and it can be life-changing, you know. I've recently had a student who just said, I now have a reason to get out of bed. And I said, well, welcome to the club, mate.
With each of the interlocking blocks clicking nicely together back on site, and with our carpenters finishing the last of the wall set out for us, the first course was well on its way to being 3 to 4 rows high, making it completed and ready for the first concrete pour.
How's my boy? Is it a hot day?
With the previous day finished early because of the baking heat, the next day brings the opposite problem, in a phenomenon only Melburnians could understand: rain clouds, and lots of them. For what is supposed to be the peak of summer quickly resembles winter less than 24 hours later. So how is it? This time yesterday it was close to 40 degrees and we literally had to stop work because it was just simply too hot. And then today we're rained out, and it's like this for like the next 3-4 days now. That's Melbourne weather for you, isn't it? With the rain clouds clearing, it was back into it for Dad and I, who were embarking on our solo mission now to constructing these walls, all by ourselves. Although under the watchful eye of our site foreman Bam, not even the best Pats could deter his unflinching attention to our construction. The system of cutting, clicking and tacking these blocks continues. The only thing to get in our way again was the persistent wet weather.
Today we've come in, we've put a little bit of a wall up, we've cleaned up the block a little bit, and we're getting ready for the first pour for the walls tomorrow.
Tomorrow, and then obviously it's going to be dry this afternoon, so we can tack the rest of the walls with a bit of concrete. Yeah.
Well, we're going to try. If it's still raining, we're going to come back tomorrow morning first thing. What did you say?
It's a joke. This weather's a joke.
The weather's a joke. Yeah. I thought you told the joke.
With pour day quickly upon us, the final preparations and checks are made. And with the pump on site, it was time to begin. Being core-filled concrete, it's typically a much wetter mixture. And together with some gentle taps to remove any potential air pockets, we ensure this concrete flows evenly throughout all of the polystyrene blocks. In just a few short hours, this hose had pumped its way to completion. And in the setting sun, our first course begins curing to strength. Well, we've basically been playing with big Lego blocks this last few weeks, although these are supersized and actually helping to create a real home. Plus, we're saving thousands off the cost of labour and the logistics of traditional brickwork. We'll see you later. Next week, our walls continue to rise. So too does our timber and steel frame. We discover an amazing cloud-shaped house.
Then the artwork's going here.
And our design teams arrive to see the home.
There'll be a sculpture down at the end of